So this is Sunday Assembly Manchester. We are a congregation that celebrates life. We can agree that we are alive and we want to celebrate that. It is so difficult at the moment during lockdown. But today we are going to look into surviving and thriving during lockdown. So we want across this month to give you a very special opportunity to try and not only celebrate life, but find some tools to help us through these difficult times. We believe in helping often, wondering more, and living better. That's what we want desperately. So that's what we want to celebrate. So we have songs, we have poets, we have speakers, and we try and celebrate everything that's wonderful about life. So this assembly is about thriving in lockdown and surviving, but more than surviving, getting thriving too. I am your host for today, Louise, and so glad that you're all here. We always start with a poet, so I'm going to hand over without further ado to a lady who we're basically collecting Louises. I just want to tell you about this so that you know what's going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, our poet for today, who's going to be reflecting on our theme, I'm going to add her to me so you can see her. It's Louise Fazackerley. There we go. Have I said it right? I'm going to get in trouble if I haven't.
It's more or less right, yeah.
More or less correct. That's what I aim for as a host. More or less correct. Here she is. Lovely to see you this morning. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. It's lovely to be here. I came last week and really enjoyed it.
Amazing. There we go. Louise, everybody.
Hi everyone. Okay, so yeah, my name's Louise Fazackerley. I'm a poet based in Wigan. I'm going to do 3 poems for you this morning, and I thought I'd start with one about my childhood obsession with watching the rain. And I feel like it's like a gloriously simple thing that we can do to watch the rain, to go out in the rain and feel it, and then even to dance in the rain if you so wish. Okay, so this poem is called RSVP. It's the first one in my book, and I'll do it for you now. RSVP. I invite you to love. I invite you to love the rain. The rain in the north, this childhood sat at an open door, awed as seaweed skirted girls fall, land and lift in these perfect, imperfect circle. My book abandoned to watch this ballet in the backyard. Even now, I'm just shopping and the rain slices through the everyday and the pink tarmac at the precinct is puddled and so mapped with these white flats of trodden chewing gum. It's like a cityscape. It's like Venice to my bird's eye view. Let hoods fall. Let the streets become streams. Let the roads become rivers. Let's ride the waves to the call of woods and beck, where we will hop from slice of tire to broken paving stone, stick out a tip of tongue and taste smoky, cloud falls, spit and wear water as clothing. And later, as we womb and warm indoors, a faint acid rain soundtrack plays. Pitter-patter, 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 pitter-patter. Thank you. Okay, so that's my little rain poem. I hope you can enjoy looking at the rain when it comes to your homes. Next up, with the idea of like surviving and thriving, this is a poem from being a teenager, and it's kind of about the power of education. And I run writers groups and I escape often through reading, and I write and use that as a way of processing uncomfortable things. So this is kind of a little bit about how I'm glad that I went to school and I get to educate now. It's called Angie's Horse. Estate rats, we run the maze with ease to a triangle of green between the high-rise flats. This girl, she brings this horse from nowhere. This young brown horse to our arena. A sign pauses in its fall, a stuttering tick at 10 to 10, at 10 to 10, at 10 to 10 to 10, 10, 10. It's cowboy time. A sign pauses in its fall, a stuttering tick at 10 to no, all games allowed, and it's too hot to stay in, bovine packed. The families are out, out, out. The pensioners asleep, leaving us, the in-betweens. We line up to take turns. Angular boys, streaks of girls, angular boys, streaks of girls. You better shut up, you'll scare the horse. When so much glass has been smashed, the fragments are beautiful. Our alleys and ginnels and cut-throughs are a tarmac sky waiting for waves of change and a gallop of children, the sea. We rub each other's tide marks, a circumference of cheap. And I had never, ever been on a horse. My go goes too quick, and I don't vault, I do vault a star from this carousel, because wooden desks can work as wings. They don't want us to be winged horses. They want us to be wolves or sheep, but we rise from Benefit Street, and we find constellations to leap. Thank you. I did go on about education, didn't warn you about the horse or the council estate, did I? I bet you were like at the beginning, what is she going on about? It was a metaphor. You can read it in the book. Okay, and then I've got one last poem for you before we carry on with the Sunday Assembly. Let me find it, page 60. Okay, so this is kind of about looking forward. So I'm hoping maybe this year, maybe next year, I don't know, one day soon, that we're going to be going back to a summer full of festivals. So even if it's like still inside at summer, I'm still looking forward to summer. Do you know what I mean? Much as I do love the rain. And so this is poem is called Fly, and it's about loving festivals and music. Time is reversing. The countdown is on. I'm on it. Let's not get trapped by gravity, because there's only one day like this one. 10, 9, 8, 7, we're festival falling upwards, and a summer full of festivals is calling. And the M6 is a neon airstrip. Swap a ticket for a launch. We fly, we flock, we are free. Lie back, watch skies, breathe. We swoop like magpies. I can't believe I've never heard this band before. 8, 7, 6, forget offices. We're magicians, unfolding tent sticks like wands. We make nests with little rainbow-faced chicks. Sausage butties for breakfast. Pack your wellies, pack your feathers, pack your short shorts, pack your favourite band's t-shirt. Some girls wear wings, and some hide wings underneath their skin. And everyone, even the shy, the socially awkward, and the self-conscious will sing, and the dancing will be immense. We will drop it like it's hot in the rain, past bedtime, in the sun. In fact, I predict a riot. I predict a Kate Tempest, where all the stages, big and small, will rise up, 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 high into the electrical impulses of our brains, and tornado down into our memory box of tricks. And you can feel small in a crowd so big you bounce to hit, and you can feel big up close in a tent so small that sweat rains from the drummer. Bring it on. 5, 4, 3, 2. 2 turns and it's silent disco headphones. 2 turns and it's the two of us on the fairground. Sit down next to me. 2 turns and it's 2 kids playing and laughing in the clouds, and our hearts unwind and the music finds us. Hear the call, because then there's only one way of festival living, and that's your own. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Only one life we're living, so let's fly. Thank you.
Louise Fazackerley, let's go wild. Well done. Lots of love for you, Louise, coming in. Everyone's quoting you. You can always tell when you've done well. People start quoting you in the chat box. Lovely. So we've got some links here for people to enjoy. And have you told us about your books, Louise?
Well, if you're stuck with things to read and maybe your brain's not functioning enough to read a novel, because I get like that sometimes. Poetry is perfect because it's really short. Got a few. Got Bird Street, what I was just reading out of. Got one about modern war poetry. Not that cheerful, but you know, it's important politically. And I've got the Lolitas, which is kind of experimental and about teenage girls and the power they have. There you go. Thanks. That's my plug.
Thank you very much, Louise Fazackerley, everybody. Yay! There she is. Wow, amazing. Louise, there's been so much love for you in the chat box from talking to just loads. Amazing. That makes me want to go and write a poem. Bill, go and do that right now. Lovely. Loads of love. People loving the rhythmic delivery, and also a message from Jeff and Tracy that we are due to have 3 days of rain. So if you would like to watch rain, as Louise has suggested, then perhaps you could do that in the comfort of your own house. I feel quite inspired by that, Louise, and I thank you for that. We've had so many wonderful poets, so many different poems about lots of different materials. So if it has inspired you to write any poetry, what else are you doing? Get there, get your pen and paper out and give it a go. So I wish you all the best if you are going to start writing poetry. We are talking about surviving and thriving in lockdown. When we started Sunday Assembly Manchester online, I remember distinctly that we're coming round actually to our last assembly that we had in person a year ago nearly, and I got some photographs today of when we met, and we had our own rave this time last year in where we used to meet in the centre of Manchester. And looking back at those photographs, how much has changed in a year. And then we did our final assembly in February. And then by March, we were online. And we said, during lockdown, why don't we meet once a week instead of every month? And I think we had the deadline of just the lockdown. And then the lockdown didn't seem to really end, even though we did come out of lockdown. We didn't really want to meet in person. We didn't want to risk people's health, so we stayed online until September, I think is what we said. And then September came and it looked like there might be another lockdown, so Manchester certainly was getting into tier 3 and tier 4. So then we decided to carry on until December. And now I don't know where we are. We're in January. We've only missed one for Christmas, and we're here every week. So I'm so glad that we've been able to carry it on. This one thing, and my dream was to get to a year, and I think we're definitely going to do that. Now, obviously, we would love to get out in the world, and one day we will re-emerge as Sunday Assembly Manchester in the real flesh. But in the meantime, thank you so much for attending, and everyone who helped organise to have this. We'll have a really special one for our year anniversary, just to celebrate that we did manage that marathon. So we've been through a journey ourselves, and for those of you who've been with us on this journey, it has been a wild ride. So we've been here every Sunday, and it's been lovely that you could join us, and we've had some amazing speakers. And as I said earlier, I'd really like to share some tips on how we can survive in lockdown. We're in it. We've been in it for a long time. You'd think we're good at it, but maybe we're not. So we have invited our speaker today, Alun Parry, who I'm going to bring on now so that you can meet him. He is a psychotherapist and a podcaster. I'm going to put him there. There he is. And we asked him if he could help us with not only surviving but thriving in lockdown. Alun, how are you this morning?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm enjoying the morning with you all.
Oh, lovely. Right.
Yeah, thanks for that, Louise. Yeah.
Lovely. I'm going to hand over to you. But just to let people know, if you do want to ask Alun any questions, he's going to do some talking, and then we're going to have an opportunity to ask some questions. So if you would like to put that in the chat box, and we'll ask them at the end. I will come back once Alun has finished. So ladies and gentlemen, Alun Parry.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and thanks for asking me. So I was asked to talk about how to survive and thrive in lockdown. That's the theme of this week. And so I thought I'd come up with an approach that you can use actually beyond lockdown in any area of life, in fact. So there's three things I want to touch upon briefly during this talk. The first is the idea of pressure. And the second one is expertise. And the third one is strategies. So just in terms of the pressure, the title of this is How to Survive and Thrive. And of course, it's good to thrive, but it can often provide a little bit of pressure as well. So I don't know whether some of you, I know a lot of my clients at the moment are sometimes beating themselves up because they're not thriving, like they're just getting through it. And so, I don't know, maybe if you're thriving, great. If you're close to thriving, great. But our nervous systems are quite frazzled at the moment because we're in a very new situation. It's a little bit scary. We're taken away from a lot of our social support networks. And when you think about other things, other difficult moments that we go through in life, whether it be a relationship breakup or a bereavement, we tend not to put that pressure on ourselves and each other that we should be thriving in it. So like I say, if you are, that's great. If you're close to thriving, that's great too. But I think in situations like this, just getting by is good enough. The surviving part is actually an achievement in itself. And so that's the first little thing. I'd just like to invite that permission that getting through this is okay, because it looks like we're on the last leg of it. There's a little bit of hope. It looks like we're all going to be vaccinated soon. And so maybe we can park the thriving and kick it into the long grass and not beat ourselves up or give ourselves too much heavy expectations. Nonetheless, the other things I'm going to talk about will actually help you to thrive if you want to. So the second thing that I wanted to talk about was the issue of expertise. So I want you just to do a thought experiment. There's 32 people in this virtual room at the moment. And let's just imagine that we were the only people in the world who went into lockdown back in March. Let's say the rest of the world just carried on. It was just us 32 locked down. And let's imagine again that what happens next is that the rest of the world now join us and they just go into lockdown. Lots of people that you know and love and care about, they're all going into lockdown now. We would actually be, us 32, we would be the world's #1 experts at surviving through lockdown. Because since March, we've done it and we've clearly survived because we're all here. And so everybody else in the world would be knocking on our door and saying, help us out here. You've done this for the last 10 months. How on earth do we do that? And so my curiosity is, if that were indeed to happen, if that was the situation, and actually is the situation, if you go back over the last 70 years, where we are the world's leading experts at surviving lockdown, I wonder what it is that we would tell those people who we love or we just might want to help. What are our kind of tips and advice or guidelines or whatever that we would offer to them as a teaching tool to help them go through the lockdown that we've already been through? So just that sense of recognizing our own expertise in this. So for me to come along today and give a talk to you on how to survive lockdown is a little bit like teaching Granny how to suck eggs, really, because we've all done it. And I think it's good to recognize that because, we can look for some big guru, but actually we've got a lot of wisdom ourselves. And in a group like this, where there's now 33 of us, we've got a lot of collective wisdom. So what would those answers be? What are the strategies? You see, the problem with advice, I think, is that you've probably been in a situation where you've been going through some sort of problem or you're striving towards some sort of goal. And then somebody will sit you down and impose some advice on you, which is always fun, isn't it? Because they'll say, what you need to be doing is this, 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 because that worked for me. And the problem with that often is that because they're a very different person than we are, and we're all unique, and we all have different ways of being in the world, that as they're giving the advice, you're kind of going, that just wouldn't work for me. Just like as if they were telling you to try their clothes on, it wouldn't necessarily fit you. And yet once we recognize our own expertise And we ask ourselves, well, okay, we did actually achieve that. How on earth did we achieve it? How did we manage to do that? What we then start to do is to dig into our own expertise. And when we dig into our own expertise, what we'll find is that we've actually got a whole host of custom-made, tailor-made strategies that already work for us. So not somebody out there telling us what worked for them, which we know probably won't fit us. And then if we don't do it, we feel kind of crappy about ourselves because we didn't. But something that has already been proven to work for us, especially uniquely us in our lives. And so I'm thinking, in terms of this question, how do you survive through lockdown? Now that we've established that we're all experts in this, now that we kind of recognize that we've actually done this already, what are the things, in the chat room there, if somebody were to say to you, well, wow, I'm just inspired with awe about the fact that you've already achieved this because I'm about to go into lockdown myself. Give us a tip, give us some help, give us some way of getting through this that's worked for you. What would you tell them? How did you manage to do this thing, this amazing thing that so many other people have never, ever lived through? How have you managed to do that? What would be the tip be? So start typing into the thing because, rather than rely on me to give you some answers that might not fit you, we can all rely on each other for that support in order to find out. So as you're doing that for each other in the chat room, while you're typing, I'll share 3 things that have worked for me, but they may not work for you and they may work for you. So one of the things that worked for me is going out for walks. So I live alone. And so I found it really difficult early on in lockdown, and it was very easy for me just to stay in the house. And so I decided to rebel against that, and I decided to go out for a walk. And I only set myself a very small target. I said, right, you can go for a walk for 5 minutes, and that means you can walk 2.5 minutes and come back. And that progressed into me walking for, I walk about 6 miles a day most days. And so that's one thing that helped. The other thing that helped is that because I was already walking, I found that I could build onto that, inviting a friend. So on some of my walks, because we're allowed to, I'll walk with a friend and then I get some socialization as well. And a third thing that's helped when I've been in the house on my own is I've dug out a 20-year-old computer game where I can pretend to be a football manager. And in the dark winter nights, I've been involved in a brave relegation battle at the bottom of the Football League. And so that's helped me as well. So there's 3 different things that have helped me. But I'm curious, what is it that's helped you? So I can see that you're all typing in there. So Jess has said things, reading a book every day. And you'll notice there, and part of the reason I'm asking you to write this is, one, it's likely to help everyone else in this community because you'll get some ideas. Oh, that's good. That might fit me. But really what it's doing is helping you to connect with your own strategies, with your own skill set, because we can often ignore our own expertise in this. So let's have a quick recap of it. And then I'll just draw out how this can be helpful in life generally, even if it's not talking about lockdown itself. So the first thing I did is say, this is a tough time. We talked about taking off that pressure. So it's a difficult time. So maybe getting through it is okay. Maybe we don't need to beat ourselves up because, we haven't taken up yoga, or we're not running marathons, or we haven't written the great novel during lockdown. Maybe just getting through it is okay and we can thrive later on. The second thing that we spoke about is the fact that we actually are the world's experts at surviving lockdown because we have, and we're here. And the third thing is in terms of digging into those strategies. Now, this approach is a kind of a simple one, but it's very, very powerful, because whatever the problem that you're trying to solve in life, you'll likely want something else instead. So once you know what it is that you want instead, you can apply this approach of finding your own expertise and finding your own strategies. So a quick example. Let's say, for instance, that I were to say, I would like more friends. Well, if I dig into my own expertise, there have been times in my life, even if right now I'm completely friendless, there have been times in my life where I've made a friend, or even have not made a friend, where I've done something that looks a little bit like that, like made a connection with someone. So I can find the times in my life where I've done the things that I'm wanting to achieve now. And I can ask myself that all important question that you're answering at the moment in the chat, which is, how on earth did I do that? How did I do that? And if there was someone further down the ladder to me who was looking to me for advice, how would I kind of teach this to someone else to achieve what I've already done? Because what you find there, like I said before, you get custom-made strategies that have already been proven to work for you. So even if you just got a tiny little bit of what you want, once you dig into the strategy behind that has already worked for you, then by expanding this, you can expand that. And just this simple strategy of reflecting on what's going well and how you actually managed to achieve that thing that went well means that you can do more of that thing to get more of what you want. And so thanks for all your suggestions. I think that's my 15 minutes pretty much up, isn't it? So thanks for listening to me. And that's all from me.
Alun Parry, everybody. There you go. Who knew? Who knew that the expertise was here all along? Let's hear some expertise. So if you have any further questions for Alun or any comments, then please write it in the chat. I will have a look down at some of our amazing advice that we gave to ourselves and each other. So let's have a look. We've had loads of great wisdom. Who knew we had so much? I love this one. Bill says, walks, walks, walks. Yes, very nice. There's so many. I have to go right to the very top here. So here we go. Here are some of our advice. Discover the joy of hugging trees. Lisa's mentioned this before. She has favourite trees in Birch. Sorry, I'll start again. She has favourite trees in Birch and Plattfields Park. 3 of them. T1, T2 and T3. I'm assuming that stands for tree. They're strong, solid, grounded and have been around for years. They have seen a lot. They are generous with other trees and their personal tree space. They're ever-changing, evolving through the seasons. They're stable and grounded. They're living and breathing. How beautiful is that? Talk about wisdom. Minnie says, practice gratitude. Advice is like trying on other people's clothes, is what Drew has just said, which is funny. Karen says, I every day I like to try to do something with people for my health, creative and new. That sounds fantastic as well. Exercise every day, says Philippa. Come to Sunday Assembly Manchester, says Bill. Pay you later. No, thank you for that. Let's have a look. Take time. So I'll just list a few more now without naming people. Take time away from screens. Walk and notice your environment. Create some low pressure habits that make you feel good. Like tiny things. Writing tiny things. Drawing as part of a group. Turn off the TV and talk. Yes. This is a good one as well. Sean says, I played on my Sega Mega Drive for the first time in 15 years. Karen has a jar of Post-its. Things that she will do when it's over. Yes, dream, by all means. Find safe activities that make you feel free. 3 good things and a daily record of gratitude. So write down 3 good things in your life. Tony appreciates sticking to a routine. Routines are good. Sleep patterns, washing and shaving, dressing. Yeah, if I don't start the day with brushing my teeth, it doesn't happen. And my dentist is going to be annoyed by the time. Tony became obsessed with Ken Bruce's Pop Master quiz. Everything stopped for tea and biscuits and pop quiz at 10:30 every weekday. That's lovely. That is a great habit. Reaching out to friends. Making sure you meet people virtually every week. Adapt what I love physically into an online version. Yeah, great advice from Caroline. Get out. This is from me. Who's this wise person? It's me. Get out in the fresh air. Yeah, I didn't realise. I haven't been physically out for a week. I haven't left that front door in a week and it's getting a problem. So I'm going to need to get out. But you need to get fresh air, even if it's just to open the front door. Have fun. You are living through history. This is my advice to me. You're living through history. This has never happened in at least 100 years. It's a great opportunity to spend time with your kids. As if you are homeschooling, as difficult as it is, it's good to realise the time that you're missing with them. They've already grown a lot in a year, actually. Treat yourself. Do fun things, from dressing for dinner to escape rooms online. That's my advice there. Learn something new. Daily walks, arts, mindful chef recipes to cook, Zoom, coffee, drinks, board games, Sunday assemblies. So much here. All fabulous. I'm just going to throw it through if there's the odd thing. And I like this from Ange. Reducing my expectations. There we go. Let's see if we've got any questions coming in. We've got some examples from Judith of places, things you can do online. One is the Whitworth Art Gallery are doing a mindfulness session. So that information is in the chat box for you to have a look at. I like this. Moisturising and self-massage to make up for the physical contact. That is a great suggestion, Rachel. Thank you very much. And there's also an art Zoom that's being put in as well. So we are absolutely fantastic at looking after ourselves. We've also got Animal Crossing as another suggestion, and podcasting. Frankie Bowl podcast is where Sean is, but Alan has a podcast too. Would you like to tell us about your podcast?
Oh yeah, it's something called A Slice of Therapy. There's, I think, 275 episodes. I'll post a little link to it. You can get it wherever you normally get your podcasts. You can just search for it, but I've put a link on my website as well, so you can see stuff.
We also have Manchester Online Comedy Club. Excess Malarkey has also been popped in the chat box, and you will have, if you've come to multiple assemblies, you will have seen the host of that and also some of the comedians that perform there who've been here. I wanted to ask you about the mental health crisis that we potentially are going to be in. What do you think can be done about that? Because we hear it on the news a lot. Are we in a mental health crisis, and how we, for ourselves and for other members of our community, how can we help out with that?
Yeah, I think we probably are. You know, as I said before, a lot of the things which invite us back to a sense of safety and calm are not available to us at the moment. I think there's been a lot of traumatic stuff. There's been a lot of people who've passed away. I think the people who have been frontline workers obviously have seen things that maybe they never expected to be working with for such a long time. So I think there is. I think, you know, I know you mentioned before about, you know, go easy on political stuff, but I think generally this part of our well-being is really underfunded, and people wait a long, long time in order to be able to get access to this. I'm always loath to talk about mental health in a sense. I don't know whether there's a better phrase for that.
Can we say mental well-being? Would that be a better way of saying it?
Maybe. I think to some extent it's a human condition as well, though, isn't it? I think to some extent, you know, we all go through struggles in life, and maybe it's more inclusive to just think of this as a human condition. I know, for instance, when I'm seeing my own clients, I don't have a paradigm whereby they're the one who's healthy and I'm the one, you know, they're the one who's not healthy and I'm the one who is. It's two people who are both in the same river of the human condition, each with different struggles and different things to bring to the party in a way which is going to help that person.
Yeah.
But that kind of semantic thing aside, I think it's a greatly overlooked part of things. One thing I'd particularly like to see, and I think it goes beyond just kind of a funding issue, but I think there's a real crisis of disconnection in our society. And I think that's kind of a very fundamental thing. If I were to think, for instance, of my own community, unless you have children, I think it's very, very difficult to connect with other people in the community. And even if one were to start something, you know, where people get together, I don't know how we would get together because we don't really have the facilities locally. And like, where would we meet? We'd have to probably have a street party and close a street down. And I think there needs to be much more thought in terms of how we connect to each other. Loneliness is something that a lot of people have felt in lockdown, but loneliness is something that's kind of an epidemic really in our society, lockdown or not. It's really sad to hear of people where their lives haven't been affected that much because it's kind of felt like that anyway, just in general life. And I think we have to have a rethink about that. We have to have a rethink about the way we live such atomized lives. And I think this is why things like Sunday Assembly are so great, because every time that we bring each other together in community with each other is one small step against that tide of atomization, of individualization. So the more that we can come together, the better. But I think on a wider scale, when we build housing, for instance, do we build in some sort of meeting place as we might have had, in days gone by? Or is that not done? So I think on many, many different levels, when I think of the austerity agenda, a lot of these social supports where people would come together and be supported, not just in a formal way, but through the other people that they would meet there, have been cut. So I think it's a bigger issue than just lockdown. I think we need to look at this afresh, really. And I think a lot of the answer is bringing people together into support networks with each other and thinking seriously about that.
Got a question from Sarah Joy saying, what is Alan's opinion on the NHS view that therapy should always have a goal and say after 10 sessions that it ends? So that's versus the USA or SA, South Africa, that therapy can be needed for certain people lifelong, especially in an isolated world. So that's the difference between having a goal, obviously, for therapy and then it being done, or whether it's something that you need possibly lifelong.
Well, I think it depends on the person, doesn't it? I think the idea that you impose some sort of, this is what therapy is for you. If you hear my talk, then it's about finding what works for you, I suppose. I've got a bit of an issue with therapists just assuming, because you'll talk to fellow therapists, and some therapists will say, oh, well, this is long-term work. And I always think, well, it is now, now that you've set it up as that way. So I've got a bit of a problem with therapists deciding that it's long-term work. But people need different things. A lot of the people I see, they do have something that is getting in the way of life and they would rather be rid of it. And, naturally, like any problem we have in life, we'd rather be rid of it quicker than for it to still be bugging us in 10 years' time. But there are others who come to explore. There are others who come to just explore what's going on in life. And I think that's okay too. I think where somebody comes with a problem that they're wanting to get rid of and they want something else instead, I think it is kind of incumbent on us as therapists to try and not rush them, but kind of have a value that them not having that problem sooner is better than them keeping that problem for like the next 25 years, New York style. So I think the person has to decide what the therapy is useful for, what it is that they're hoping to get out of it. But I do think it's incumbent on us as therapists that if it's something that is getting in the way of their life that they wish to no longer have in their life, that we try and help that to be gone sooner rather than later.
Thank you very much, Alan. Absolute wise words. And to have the wisdom inside us, and as you say, it's very difficult to talk about these things. They run deep. our mental health and how we look after each other as a community. But I think it's absolutely been widely stated that our communities are much more fragmented than ever before. And loneliness is definitely not something that definitely just affects older people. In fact, more reported than ever is the 18 to 24 range. So we have a lot of work to do, I think, perhaps on our community, which I'll talk about. Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you very much for your time. Podcast is written in the chat box if you would like to catch up with Alan. Alun Parry, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Wow, I am absolutely delighted that we have so much knowledge between us, so thank you very much. SJ is very happy with the response from Alan there on the question. So we've had loads of great responses to Alan. Thank you very much. Phil's just mentioned about the 18 to 24. Looking at life changes, 18 to 24. Not needing guidance would seem weirder. Yes, absolutely. So thank you very much for our speakers today. We've still got a little bit more of the assembly, but I would just bring together some of the themes that we had today. So the great thing about, and we talked a little bit about poetry with Louise, the great thing about your own writing, your own journaling, your own thoughts, is that often the wisdom can be there. And I spent many years as a therapist myself, which I quit but I did do it for a while. And with that came my own therapy and on supervision and things like that. And what I always found was that the person that was in the room was always just a sounding board to my own thoughts. So that when I went away, I was like, oh yeah, I knew that. And almost in a way, my relationships with therapists and supervisors and other people have been that they were a sort of sounding board almost, and weirdly enough, they were just there, and I came up with the ideas myself. No, not to say that isn't the only thing that therapy does, but it is interesting that you have that available to you, that you can ponder on your life, that you can walk and think and write if you want to, or talking to a dictaphone if writing is not your thing, and just get it out, and then you'll be surprised with how much wonderful wisdom that you have inside you, and that we have here in the group amongst our friends. I think sometimes we can want to solve for other people, and other people will come to us with things, and you've just got to remember that the best thing you can ever do is to listen as best you can, as much as you want to come swoop in and help your friend. This is what I say to my husband all the time. You don't have to come in and tell me. He's like, what do I do? How do I solve this immediately? But sometimes it's just nice to have someone to listen to you and get it out, and then you realise what the answer to your problems is. You're not necessarily coming to someone for this big answer, but you're just coming to have someone to talk to. So that's something worth taking on board, that it's sort of almost the active listening part of it that is the most useful to a friend. So that's what maybe we can offer to our friends and family and the people that we love. So I hope you found that helpful today. Again, as Alan says, surviving is enough. Wrong one. Surviving is enough. You don't have to feel under any pressure. I think sometimes if you put your clothes on and brush your teeth, you're already winning. Don't let people think that you have to take up all this stuff. There will be a friend who's taken up jogging and lost weight or whatever they've done. If you've managed to sit upright in any given day, that's a win as far as I'm concerned. So we've got a little bit more of the assembly to go, but I'm going to say goodbye to our YouTube people. If you have been watching this on YouTube, come along to Sunday Assembly Manchester. You'll make friends. It'll be wonderful. So do that. So we'll stop our recording now. Bye-bye.